If you've been watching the news recently, then you might have heard about the new AI that just came out, DeepSeek, and it's really resulted in one of the biggest stock market crashes that I can really think of in recent memory. All of America's biggest AI companies like OpenAI, which is the one that powers ChatGPT, all of them have completely tanked in the stock market, and it's because China has released this new AI product of their own. From my understanding, DeepSeek, it's basically like ChatGPT, but it's open source and it's much more efficient and just cost effective in general. And so investors started putting their money into DeepSeek instead of keeping their money with ChatGPT. So this AI comes out, makes huge waves, and like I always notice one thing, that whenever America thinks of some sort of new technology or innovation or just anything, China is always 2 steps behind us and they are always doing it better. I'm not even an expert on international politics like that or anything, but it seems like in many ways, the US is not number 1 anymore. China is quickly surpassing us from what I've seen. I think the first sign of this happening was with manufacturing. Back in the day, I want to say the 1800s or something, Americans actually used to make stuff for a living. They used to make stuff. Throughout the 1800s, it wasn't really that uncommon for somebody to be like a shoemaker or for somebody to sew dresses for a living. But with the turn of the Industrial Revolution, the eventual introduction of globalization as well, China completely took over these manufacturings of all these goods, and they were goods that were once made in America. China completely took them over. Even if they did it by questionable means, they still made it cheaper and just faster than Americans would have otherwise made it. Nowadays, Americans live in what is called a service-based economy. That means that all of the jobs that people have in America, they're not jobs that make products. They're jobs that are rather doing a service that cannot be done remotely. Like a hairdresser is a service done by an American, but the supplies and the products that the hairdresser uses to do their job comes from China. This means that without China, all of these occupations, all of these service-based occupations like doctor, technician, lawyer, hairdresser, etc., they would all come to a stop because China controls all the products that are necessary for these services to be done. They control the manufacturing of the product. Not only are they surpassing us with the manufacturing of products, but they're also surpassing us with regards to social media. Of course, we all know TikTok. Obviously, China has surpassed American social media. TikTok is just completely eating up Meta and Google's market share. And also, just from personal experience, I can tell you, TikTok is just better. It is better at keeping users on the app. It is 10 times more addictive than any other social media app I've been on. Whenever TikTok got banned, young people were so pissed off because honestly, nobody in Gen Z cares about China having our data. There's actually a lot more resentment towards American CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg amongst young people than there is for China even. I think this was best portrayed by everybody deciding that instead of moving back to Instagram Reels during the TikTok ban, they just go to Red Note instead. This was despite the fact that they didn't even know the language on the platform. They did all of that just so that they wouldn't have to use a Meta platform.
Some TikTok users are downloading another Chinese app in protest in case the wildly popular social media app TikTok is banned in the US. This app is called Red Note, and in case you didn't hear, it is the top downloaded app in the US right now.
Then there's our currency. Now, if you don't know, there's a group of countries known as BRICS, and that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These global superpowers, they have all come together and they have decided not to use the United States dollar as currency for international trade. The United States dollar has been used as the standard for international trade ever since, I believe, World War II. This is known as the Bretton Woods system. These countries have done this as an effort to reduce their reliance on American-dominated financial systems, and they want to grow without the need for America's help. They've also done this because inflation has made the US dollar so much more unstable than it has been in past years, back when the gold standard was still a thing. This only further shows America's decline in geopolitical influence. For example, in past years, since the US dollar was the standard that all countries used with regards to international trade, that means if a country did something that America didn't like, America could wield its control of the global financial system to cut off that country's access to the US dollar, thus making it extremely difficult for them to trade with other countries. However, in the direction things are going, this is a level of control that the US probably won't have in the future, and countries like China, they're slowly becoming less and less reliant on us. And finally, we have China's shift in the view of the American public. During the 40s and the 50s, America underwent what is known as the Red Scare. This was a period of time shortly after World War II. The American public, they were extremely paranoid about the thought of communism and communist countries taking over the US. Anybody that was accused of being a communist or aligning themselves with countries like China, they were ostracized and they were demonized by the public. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but what you see nowadays is many old people are still afraid of the idea of communist China. However, young people, they don't care at all. The type of people that are still afraid of communist China are the type of people that watch Fox News. Baby boomers. The number of progressive Gen Z people that they themselves identify as communists has really drastically shot up over the last 5 years. And young people, they don't have the same skepticism towards China and the Chinese government stealing our data as older generations have, to the point where young people are willing to download Red Note and agree to all its terms of service without a problem. In conclusion, I guess the US isn't number one anymore. Or if we are number one, it won't be that way for long. Let me just be real. I don't know anybody that still says we're number one like people used to in past generations. And I really think, not just with China, but there's a million different reasons why America has been declining on the global scale. And I really think China is just a small microcosm of that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments.